Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Better Call Saul Review and React. I'm Greg, this is Q, together with Mr. Happy0121, and today we're talking about Episode 7, Bingo.
Bingo.
I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but 6 out of the 7 episodes this season have ended with an O.
I have not noticed that.
It's very true.
Which one didn't end with an O?
Episode 5, Alpine Shepherd Boy,
which
was originally to be titled Jello. So it would have been 7 out of 7, but someone, somewhere, messed things up. And I looked ahead, I won't give you the titles, but the last 3 episodes of the season all ended in O. So it's 9 out of 10. It's very weird that they decided to change the 1. Alright, we start the show. Boom, right at credits. Well, there were no credits. There wasn't even a title, no music. They ran the credits under the scene. That means they had more show to get in. Simpsons do that. You can always tell how much show they have by how long the couch gag is. There's just some knowledge. You got Mike and Saul, or Jimmy as the case may be, sitting on a bench, waiting to speak with the police about the nabbed notebook from the last episode. Okay, in a very Saul-like way, Saul gets Mike out of trouble. That was the most he's looked like Saul to me in any episode this season.
That's right.
It was very slick. He said they found the little notebook out on the ground.
He has a way with words.
He does. He very much does. At this point, Mike thanks Saul for his services and tells him to beat it. And beat it Saul does. At this point, we're treated to Mike sitting on the bench with the older cop, as there is a huge batch of wanted posters over their head.
Right.
And as they're speaking, they start going through the wanted posters. The third wanted poster was Robert Sanchez.
That's right. We had to work hard to make that out.
The first 2, they went by and you could see the names clearly. The third one, they purposely blurred the name and they went by very quick. So I spent the entire scene listening to what they were saying and looking at them, but I was studying the wanted posters because there's no other reason to have them in the episode other than something will happen. And indeed, one of the people on those posters does show up later in the show.
Robert Sanchez. That's right.
So at this point, we kind of leave Mike for a while. The policeman that he's speaking with recommends that Mike get his shit straight, so to speak, with his daughter-in-law so that Mike's not going to prison for the double murder.
That's right.
We assume that you watched our last episode, or at least the last episode of Call Saul, so you don't have to go into an explanation there. We then go... This is like Chuck feels very ancillary, like he's not really part of the story and they shoehorn him in sometimes.
Yeah, it seemed at the beginning though he was more important, but now he's just...
Yeah, I think they're giving him something to do until he becomes important again.
He's just there.
So Saul rolls in, looks all over for his brother Chuck. Chuck's not to be found. He's outside, building up a tolerance to electromagnetism. I think he lasted 120 seconds. Jimmy rolls in a bunch of files. Like 3 giant boxes full. And a little bit of foreshadowing for the next episode because we've seen the coming attractions. They're all related to the elder law that Jimmy has been doing. Chuck makes the comment that they're all 513s. And a 513 is a written statement referred to within a will that identifies tangible personal property other than money that is not specifically disposed of within the will itself. In other words, everything that someone leaves in a will, they leave money and possessions, but there's always something they forgot. If they left all their house, all their money, and like all their worldly goods to someone, but they didn't leave the contents of
a basket of cucumbers next to the door.
Yeah, that. Yeah. They have to hash out who gets what or what was meant in the will by that. That's basically what that is. So Jimmy says he doesn't have room for these, but it looks like he's really leaving them there to give Chuck something to do. Or maybe to give Chuck the idea to look through these files and see that Jimmy's being legit and doing legit work. Maybe there's 2 or 3 things that work there.
He does it on purpose because we see him looking out the window watching him doing it. So a little bit of manipulation going on there.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons. Maybe he's just trying to get Chuck back in the swing of doing work.
Yeah, maybe it's good manipulation.
At this point, we flash to Jimmy looking for an office, or looking at his new office. Has an overlook of the city. Beautiful view. He offers Kim a partnership in his new law firm. She turns him down. and he looks sad. But he goes on with his day. At that point, we see the Kettlemans across from Kim at a table, looking across the table at Kim. There we go. And that is her name, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I believe so.
Look at me getting names. Basically, she informs them that they need to plead guilty and give the money back, and then they promptly fire her. Anything to add to any of that? That was pretty cut and dried.
I didn't see that coming. I thought they were just going to go along with it, but no, they fired her.
Yeah.
Took a nice little twist there.
We then jump to Saul calling bingo. Not really much to add to this scene. This one kind of felt just like they were just showing you what Saul was doing.
That's right.
There was one reference. The old lady that won the notebook mentioned her cats, Oscar and Felix, which of course are the odd couple. It's an old 70s sitcom. One's clean and one's dirty, and she goes to great lengths to explain that one cat likes to clean itself and one cat doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Where we get a call, or Jimmy gets a call, that calls him away from bingo. Guess who?
Who?
The Kettlemans. At which point, something very interesting happens as they sit across from him. Now remember, the last time they saw him, they said that he's the kind of lawyer guilty people hire.
That's right.
And he, in so many words, reminds them of that, but does not say it. She gives a little bit of an impassioned speech of why he should take the job. And at which point, Mr. Kettleman says, "You're the lawyer for us." Now, if you've got a free minute, because AMC runs this thing around the clock, or you happen to record it, or however you did it, if you go back and watch that scene again, as he's saying it, Mrs. Kettleman is mouthing what he's saying, which shows once again that it was rehearsed. Not like by actors, but the characters rehearsed what he was going to say because she's such a control freak. She couldn't stand him saying something out of character.
That's right.
Anything there?
No, that's a good idea.
Okay, so Saul is between a rock and a hard place. He kind of has to take this job because he's in $30,000, and
right.
They have to account for all the money. But Saul wants to figure a way out of this, so he goes to the bathroom to catch a minute and call Kim and see if there's anything that she can do to help him get out of this. This is my understanding. I think he was trying to save his own skin and help her. He didn't really want them to be clients anymore. So Saul steps off to the bathroom to make this call, and while he's in the bathroom, what does he see?
A big guy peeing? Yeah.
A biker with his back to him peeing. Now, once the biker is finished peeing and he turns back around and rudely bumps into Saul, guess who we find out that biker is?
Robert F. Sanchez.
That's right, the very same Robert F. Sanchez that was on a wanted poster at the beginning of the show.
That's right, you heard it here first.
And we had to work damn hard to get that name.
That's right.
Because they purposely blurred it.
That's right.
It was blurry on purpose. Now, we may never see Robert F. Sanchez again, but I had a feeling. I studied those posters because I really felt we would see one or more of them. Maybe for the rest of the season, those people will pop up. It's kind of like Where's Waldo?
I feel like we're going to be the only people who catch on to this. I don't know.
I think people will recognize him from the poster because with that really short hair and that really long beard, he was kind of recognizable. I don't know that anybody took the time to go look through the blurry picture of his name to find it.
Well, there's no need to, because we got it.
Because we're here. That's why we're here for you guys, to tell you that was Robert F. Sanchez, and he's wanted.
That's right.
They blurred out what he was wanted for, though, so we didn't get that information. At this point, Saul goes back.
We could have just made anything up, but...
That's true, but we didn't. We promised.
We're honest.
At this point, Saul goes back to the Kettlemans, and he's pretty stuck. He's going to take the job. He ends up back at the McGill Law Firm picking up the files. And he notices Kim is no longer in her office, and she may have lost her partnership over this, the one that she was so happy about earlier in the show, and the reason she turned Jimmy down for being his partner. So that's what you get, Kim.
What?
Oh, sorry. No. I don't know. Jimmy was heartbroken when she said no to him.
Oh, yeah. That's what you get, Kim.
That's what you get for trying to better yourself.
Hogwash.
Now, so Jimmy takes the files back to his office, and we get a little montage of him sitting there looking for loopholes. Love a montage. Montages are great. As the montage or the moment of us spying on him working goes on, you notice that A, we're looking at him from above, and then B, you notice we're looking at him from above through a missing ceiling tile. And about the time this knowledge kicks in, he looks up at us. But he's not looking at us. He's not even looking at the camera.
No, he's not.
He's thinking. He's thinking, I'm going to jump up on this desk, go over here to the right, and get this shoebox. Eerily enough, the shoebox is very reminiscent of episode 1, when not Jimmy, not Saul, but Gene from Cinnabon goes to the crawl space to dig out his shoebox.
Gene and Jimmy.
Full of his memories. But I digress. So that's just a little thing that tells you no matter how much he evolves or changes, at his core, maybe he's still the same guy. Certain things remain the same. He goes through all of this. He then pulls out the money and looks at it forlornly. The next thing we do is we see Mike with the very same packet of money, which, as you mentioned, I believe is going to be 10 grand.
Yeah.
Mike is spraying something on the money. This is one of the times I guessed wrong. He's spraying something. I thought he was spraying like water or something to remove fingerprints.
Yeah. Put like on a mouthpiece or
anything to get the fingerprints off the money. I did not see it being luminol, but it was. He sets the money outside the house and waits for them to discover it. At which point Mr. Kettleman takes it in the house, and then we get this like 5-minute musical jazz montage of Mike eating apples, watching the Kettlemans argue and discuss and look at, and then they go to bed. And Mike whips out a UV light and follows the trail of the luminol he sprayed on the money right to where the money was, and then he steals it. About the time you and I finally make mention as we're watching the episode that, wow, this music has been going for a while. He's at the sink pulling out the money. Boom, music stops. It's like we called it. We then flash over to Mike and Saul standing over the money. And as you and I have discussed previously, before making this video, there was a couple important things happened here. Mm-hmm. A, this is the first time Mike worked as a cleaner for Saul. And B, Mike's shown that he's very trustworthy because he didn't steal the money when he very easily could have.
I mean, would you? It's $1 million,
and it's not like Mike had anything going on.
Yeah.
He's kind of in a criminal investigation.
He's completely removed from the situation with.
He could have just hooked ass, but nope. Mike showed he's a stand-up guy, at least in some situations.
And he didn't even get paid for it. He was just,
He was evening things up with Saul.
That's right.
But I think this was a major, major thing. It showed that Saul and Mike could work together. It showed that Mike is willing to bend laws to get things done. And it showed that he's very trustworthy. So I think there was a lot done in like that 3 to 5 minute span between those two. At this point, off camera, Jimmy turns the money over to someone that's going to turn it into the DA. We then get a shift to the next morning where
at least he says he does.
At least he says he does. For this to work, I believe he did. And he gave up all his money and all his dreams by doing the right thing. At this point, we shift over to him telling the Kettlemans what he has done. He didn't tell them so much what he had done. He just told them what has happened, that their money is gone. Great scene of Miss Kettleman freaking out, running up the stairs to check on the money.
That's right.
At which point she comes back and threatens him. And then Jimmy tells her, in the words of Nacho from episode 2, I like ripping off thieves because they can't go to the cops. That's what Nacho told Jimmy, and that's what Jimmy basically told them. As I told you before, Jimmy's like a sponge. As he becomes more, he interacts more with the criminal element. Now, he was always a con man, but he wasn't like into this kind of thing. He's learning every time he has an interaction with one of these criminals. He's picking up things that he uses later.
He's a pretty sharp guy.
Even if it's subtle, like this was very subtle. You might even say, well, that's a stretch. But no, it's basically the same thing Nacho was going to do to them. He did it, but he's giving the money back. Yeah. He blackmailed the Kettlemans into going back to Kim, saving her. Kim, I can't believe you treat Jimmy so badly after all he does for you.
Yeah.
Miss Kettleman was going to try to play the card that Jimmy was dirty too, but that would have resulted in her going to jail. So he put her in her place, and that was that. We then next flash back to Jimmy delivering them in his junky yellow car and Kim taking them in. So I think that's an important... Yeah.
He learns that nice or the right way isn't always the way to go.
Nice doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice to pay the bills.
Didn't pay Jimmy's bills.
No.
All right. Same scene. Phone rings. Jimmy answers. Breaks right into his little Irish accent. And you see that he still has hope because he's still grinding away answering that phone, trying, even though he's just been dealt like a heartbreaking loss. So the show ends on a hopeful note, even though you know how it all goes later. So is it really hopeful, or is it just delayed hopeful? For the three of you that may have ever watched Smallville, it's kind of like I watched Smallville, and I enjoy Lex Luthor even though at some point, is it this week or next week, he's going to turn bad. I still enjoy Lex Luthor today. I'm only on season 4, people. Yeah, I'm 10 years behind.
You are. That's an old show.
It is an old show. That's the best kind.
Never seen it.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
He's Superman.
Not missing anything.
Lex Luthor is worth watching for. That guy's all right.
Is it?
Another bald-headed guy, much in the tradition of Walter White. Or Heisenberg. My bad. There we go. What do you give the grade for this show?
An A. It was good. It was fast-paced. It felt fast-paced.
I give it an A also. It was my second favorite episode, only behind the episode 2, Tuco in the Desert episode. What's your favorite episode so far?
I think I might have to say this one.
This one?
Yeah.
It moved at a good pace. There was always something happening. It never lagged, and it never felt like it was doing anything just to fill time, like episode 5 did. All right. Good show. We'll see you guys next week. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Just a real quick update on Robert F. Sanchez. There was an archbishop in New Mexico at that time that was in the news. So if someone was trying to think of a fake name suddenly, it's very likely that they would have pulled a name that was all over the newspapers a few years before. I'm going to go ahead and put a quick link, a Wikipedia page to Robert F. Sanchez in the description below. If you're interested, you can see. I don't know if it was just any more than he used it as a fake name or if it's going to be more than that down the road. Who knows if we'll even see this bearded biker again. Never know. There's your update. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.